very appropriate for this time.
Oh, hey, this
Yeah.
is from like 2 years ago. I dug this thing up, and the green screen's horrible on Zoom, so everybody knows. So if I look a little weird, like there's some green in my suit, it's probably not going to show up right.
And man, your suit alone could cause a bull run. This is
Oh, absolutely. I go to the store and buy milk like this even in July.
Oh my God.
All right, guys, I'm opening it up with the question everybody kind of wants to know. All right. And when I say everybody wants to know, is things were clear as mud to some people in the community for the most part, as far as main dish was concerned. So this it is unclear now exactly what main dish was. Was a liftoff event even considered the main dish? And what I'm gonna say is from a community perspective, it wasn't clear what we were focusing on, right? Was it the end when we start talking about knowledge and data, or is it everything together? BSI, GS1. We heard some really cool things that came out from a lot of the third parties, and I love the event too. So can you just go over what, in your eyes, what OriginTrail eyes was the main dish? Did we overlook anything? And there's a lot more that you guys are going to know that we won't know behind the scenes as far as organizationally speaking. So can you speak to the main dish, everything that happened, not everything happened in the event, well, because we have more questions to go into that, but
Yeah.
as far as the main dish is concerned.
Yeah. So we should pull a line at this year. So this is a main dish 2021, which doesn't mean that this is the only main dish of OriginTrail. So I'm not going to be stopping using that lingo because I think it's a very appropriate lingo. Although when the year comes to end, I'm going to name this main dish 2021. And OriginTrail liftoff event was intended for partners, the most important partners and also clients who have achieved the most during this year to either announce on or to say where the alignment and where the convergence is between OriginTrail and their organizations, in that case, GS1. And perhaps going from the beginning, one of the things that even we saw even surpassed our expectations was BSI. BSI actually went on to explain how many organizations, from governmental organizations, the most important ones from the US, are going to be using the solution using the OriginTrail. This is something that has not yet been communicated, and the numbers that Dan Pertel, the innovation director, cited there were, this is it goes, what we have achieved here alone within BSI is paradigm shifting. And of course, putting this into a context of what is being achieved in addition to that, counting in Monastereven, which is far from being a finalized story, because there are so many additional things to it, going far beyond what Dan explained. There is also one thing which surprised me the most, because I was not expecting this to hear from Dan. And this is the announcement of the governmental project with the UK government, now that the UK is going out of the European Union. And due to that, they are going to, through the Innovate UK grant, be financing one of the projects spearheaded by, of course, BSI, but also using the OriginTrail. So this news alone is goddamn beyond state-of-the-art move of the entire ecosystem. And this is BSI alone. So again, we had then naming the organizations, the most important organizations in the US within the DHS, Department of Homeland Security, that are tapping into the potential of OriginTrail. He was mentioning the number of audits, the number of certifications, not only issued because of the scan purposes. He mentioned, so the scan, the trusted factory solution. So he mentioned several solutions, and he added numbers. He provided names. So those names have never been communicated publicly. Perhaps you have seen them somewhere, but this is for the first time someone from BSI came to our event, to our liftoff event, and communicated those. In addition to that, mentioning the governmental project, which is a total and huge surprise for me. But even if we discount that for this UK governmental project, this thing itself contributed the first ingredient to main dish. And there is one specific of the main dish which I talked about in one of the previous AMA, is that main dish is not only the adoption main dish. It was about having several things connected to the adoption. So in addition to BSI, we were also able to witness a representative of Swiss Federal Railways explaining how Swiss Federal Railways are using already and are going to continue to use OriginTrail as a basis for the EPCIS 2.2 EPCIS repository, which is essentially used to connect data about all the materials, either materials going into the carts, into the locomotives, into the railway system. So all the materials, all the history, all the knowledge at the end of the day about the Swiss Federal Railways going into this EPCIS repository. And this is again number 2 ingredient, which is again beyond paradigm shifting thing, not only for the OriginTrail ecosystem itself, but for the entire fucking world. It's a huge thing. And perhaps not forgetting that the repository being used by the Swiss Federal Railways is essentially becoming a repository being used by the companies the likes of Siemens, who's the biggest supplier of SBB, some other very much important companies providing equipment, tools for Swiss Federal Railways. I mean, we're talking about a national company. It's a huge deal. And
let me ask.
To my knowledge, that's another ingredient, very important ingredient to the main dish. Third point was very much conveyed nicely by the Oracle representative. And fourth point, perhaps this is something that we'll also be covering in one of the following questions. GS1 essentially saying that there is a high level of convergence between what we do and what they do. This is something I wouldn't even say that it is beyond imagination for a crypto company. It's beyond imagination for any company, technological company with like decades of experience in working with GS1. So this is a huge deal. So let's kind of complete this adoption package. Going forward to the second ingredient, or the second thing that I mentioned about the main dish, which is the technological advancement which is needed for all the data, all the knowledge that is being created to be transformed, catalyzed into jobs, because this is something that we also care about in an effective way, without friction, without too much of a cost, and perhaps even most importantly, by retaining most of the value or all of the value within OriginTrail ecosystem. And this is why we're here. This is why we are building this. We need to make sure that the tokenomics we instill into OriginTrail actually serve OriginTrail. And that is why previously, yes, you have heard about the Starfleet initiative, and now Starfleet is becoming the intersection between what we are doing here with the adoption that is coming towards us, with the adoption that is coming here, and it now needs to be translated into much more jobs than we previously experienced. And by the way, I know one of the questions said that we had less jobs this month and previous month. No, this is not true. There are so many fake news. I'm sorry for saying this, but there are so many things that are being promulgated by people who are hiding behind anonymous names, and we're coming here talking with our name and surname, and giving you the facts, cold facts, inviting the most reputable representatives from other companies to talk about OriginTrail ecosystem. And this is I would say it's an insult to present facts in a wrongful way. And jobs are increasing, and the number of jobs is going to be increasing in the next year. And the main inflection point for that is Starfleet, which is also segueing into the future OriginTrail knowledge economy. And again, we're going to be talking about what knowledge is versus data. We're going to cover that. We covered that. And perhaps to rest my case at this point, because I know there are some other questions, but I just wanted to let you know that the significance of this way surpasses the significance of OriginTrail ecosystem only. This is something what we have achieved, and what we are bringing here with the main dish is a paradigm shift, not only for us but for the entire world. And this is a main dish which has been increasing in importance as we were mentioning the main dish on having this AMA on a monthly basis. And what I can say here going forward is that I'm looking forward to the main dish of 2021 and seeing more organizations coming to the second liftoff for the OriginTrail ecosystem. So I also see some people saying that we should, be less hyped about everything. And I'm going to say that after seeing what has transpired, what we have achieved, how many great people we have onboarded to talk about OriginTrail ecosystem, we are going to be doubling down on hype, and we are going to be doubling down on the bullishness because we have facts to support that. And
Wow.
sorry
So
for this rant, but I'm
no, it's
fucking
good.
hyped.
You just answered every question on the list, so now we don't even have anything to talk about. No, I'm just kidding. But someone just said Giga for president on Telegram. So hey, maybe if you have a future of being I don't know if they have presidents over there in Slovenia, but
No, this is a centralized. We're building decentralized
that's
solution here.
right.
So.
Decentralized. There's no presidency in decentralized. No, but I'm glad you touched upon it the way you did, because when I saw the event, I was so excited. I thought it was amazing. And when I heard BSI, Dan from BSI talk, for example, it clicked to me like how big this is, and realize how many organizations depend on the technology that's coming out. And I actually even, me and John Keogh talked yesterday briefly, one-on-one, and I thanked them because I said, if it wasn't for you, I probably wouldn't understand the depth of why what BSI is talking about is so important. And again, John's a very neutral guy from everything, right? He just cares about making sure that things aren't killing people out there, and supply chains move forward. And and I said, talking with you, for somebody who's not as romantic with the solutions as you are, just that one piece alone, after he explained it to me, I realized how big this BSI thing is. When you talk about Siemens, for example, I mean, that's just one entity that's contributing to this whole machine that depends on this, and then in the supply chain. So I'm more excited even after watching the event, which is hard to believe. So when you say people weren't excited, I think a lot of people were. Maybe not everybody who's not as close to the technology as the team is, but
No, I think this is all legitimate. I'm not. I'm recognizing the importance of perhaps communicating the outcome more clearly. But there is one thing that we need to be aware of here. Main dish is yet to be consumed. So main dish is here. We need to consume it. We need to consume it together. And the thing is, the liftoff event was just an introduction into what main dish is. And there are several more activities planned towards making this more consumable: roadmap, white paper, other AMAs, so several other communication events, which are crafted towards the needs of the OriginTrail community. So those running nodes, those who are in future going to be providing liquidity. So everybody who has a stake in the game in order to make this happen. Whereas in the first liftoff event, and this is something I had kind of reflection after the event, was there something that we could have done better or communicated more specifically up to the point for the people in the community, those very much attached to the token, to understand better. But honestly, we had representatives from BSI, from GS1, not only those talking, but actually corporate people listening in. We had
you guys had
I'm
like
gonna use
500 people, almost like
yeah
400 people,
and
organizations too.
yeah, and perhaps talking too much about the outcomes for the community members, those holding a token, might not yield good results for OriginTrail. And
It's two
OriginTrail has
different
always differentiated.
audiences.
Yes, and I think we catered perfectly to both audiences. And of course, we could have catered better if this was a purpose-specific event only for people that are interested in token, or whatever specific about the token. But for those two audiences, so the intersection, the liftoff as an intersection, was an amazing event. It produced, so we can look at different parameters, but bottom line is, OriginTrail liftoff event not only gave birth to the next stage, it also attracted a lot of interest from corporates. So we need to be aware, we need to be inclusive when we're talking about this. And this AMA, of course, is designed to speak with you, Guinness, and then to speak to community members through questions, and we can cover all the possible outcomes. And I was hyped and stoked about having this AMA more than any other AMA before, because there was so many things, so many outcomes that we should cover to make people realize just how big this is.
You know the old saying, like, you're a victim of your own success sometimes? Like, there's no projects in the crypto ecosystem that are victims of their own success because
I
there's not
like
many
being
that are
victim of their
successful.
success.
Yeah, exactly. But no, but that's what I mean. You know, you see all these white papers and these things that sound cool and stuff, but like you never have any like Oracle jumping on a Zoom meeting saying how they're using the technology, or BSI jumping on a Zoom meeting how they're using the technology. So it's almost like there's a bar, you know, you set the bar here, and now people are like, oh my gosh, it's got to be like up here, when they don't realize that the bar that you set is already way higher than 99% of projects out there. And I think people need to
Yeah.
remember that. So I'm
And
gonna continue. Oh,
I think it's sorry sorry again, just to
nope,
and
sorry.
then I'll shut up. There is one very important differentiation between us and other projects in the crypto. We are setting the bar for ourselves, and by having so many successes in this year, I also understand that expectations are becoming higher, and that's good. That's well, because we need to become better. We need to become more ambitious. But the point being here that we are kicking ourselves in the rear here very much and setting the bar very high for ourselves, which is not only bringing us way beyond where others are, it is also, you know, we're being very strict towards ourselves as to what the next achievement should be. And it's, you know, it's always bigger. But, you know, the team is working very hard here. And whatever people think about the achievement, what we communicate, there is one thing that I would really like people to rest assured about. Our team is always doing the best they can, and we have like people are working every day, especially including the people that you see here on this call, the founders, Anna, Yuri, the lead developers. They are all working around the clock in order to make sure that this will bring a very good success for all of us together.
I can tell that because sometimes I'm a nerd and I check GitHub like probably 10 times a day. And I'll see this poor bastard, what's his name, the younger guy. He's putting commits at 2 a.m. in the morning sometimes. So no one's doubting that you guys are working hard. Believe me, everybody knows that. And I just want to say, I want to thank you from the community too. It's just uh, uh, the majority of the community knows what you're doing, knows it's important, and knows that everything you're doing is far more reaching than anything we've seen in this space. So I don't want as well for you guys to get, you know, feel down or anything by like a few bad actors in the community who were saying otherwise. So I'm gonna go jump to our first question. Oh, sorry, second question. But we got a lot of good info out of Giga, and we're gonna. And I apologize because we're probably going to rehash parts of what you've already said in other questions, but that's just
No
because you
problem.
said so much. So I'm
That's
gonna. It comes with the territory. So all right. So the next question: in the liftoff event, Phil mentioned 3 multinationals will adopt GS1 Digital Link. Does this mean these 3 multinationals will be using the ODN guaranteed? What's the precise link between GS1 Digital Link and Origin Trail? Is it an option or is intended? And as you spoke to this earlier too, is it um, it's nothing's automatic, right? Nothing's definite. It's like in being a decentralized product, it's there for people to use, but there's nobody you can really say, or a company is going to say has to use this technology. And we spoke about this in other office hours. And you just mentioned Siemens earlier, so I mean, maybe that's a multinational. I don't know. I mean, who knows? So can you speak to this question a little bit?
yeah, mentioning all those big names. I mean, at some point, this world is gonna run out of big names, and I think OriginTrail is very much in the bracket of the companies that are tapping into many of those big names. And then going to the GS1 question. GS1 is issuing and then rectifying open standards, which can be used by just about any company. And same goes for the OriginTrail decentralized network and the underlying protocol. That said, what is very important to see and recognize is that we see OriginTrail and GS1 converging towards one single point. And this not only goes for GS1 Digital Link and EPCS 2.0, it's also very much important for their future plans about decentralized identities and decentralized knowledge graph that they're, you know, we could call Phil a CTO of GS1. It's a big thing. Is using as a core lingo, and he's not using that by chance. I mean, you saw him talking, and this is something that he also pointed out in one of the conversations with us, and then he iterated on that on the at the liftoff event, and he was recognizing the importance of having open networks also for the enterprises. And this is something that didn't happen by chance. This is something, again, that was several times pointed out by OriginTrail representatives on numerous conferences of GS1. And now we see essentially GS1 getting closer to OriginTrail rather than OriginTrail getting closer to them. Of course, that's mostly because we have always been very huge proponent of their standards, and it was not IBM which was the first one using EPCS for traceability in couple with blockchain. It was OriginTrail, and this is actually paying dividends right now. We see their board, we see their key technical personnel very much being on board with what we do. Now, those three companies that they're mentioning, I would just say that all that we have done, everything that was demonstrated, also the liftoff event, and not only liftoff event, all the achievements that were not mentioned in the event are providing a very fertile ground for the next year's implementations and discussions with the GS1. And this convergence point that they themselves have recognized is a very important ingredient in the main dish.
And when you think about it, GS1 was decentralization before decentralization was cool, right? Like they are the OG decentralization when you think about it. I mean, what's something that is the most decentralized before technology really came into play was the barcode. I mean, it's used everywhere, whether in China, Japan. So I know, I can tell that their whole mindset is they believe in decentralization. They want decentralization to be the guide of the future. And that's why I can see why GS1 would be excited about the ODN, because it's kind of synonymous in that sense, where it's the core values of the decentralization, and then the core values of GS1 are very similar. So I mean, I think the writing on the wall there is the more these standards advance with GS1 and the more the ODN advance, the more parallel they run with each other, and I think the more value that's added from the technology when you put both together. So
there is one important observation here. GS1 EPCIS was never a success until OriginTrail. GS1 EPCIS, so the first standard, was introduced in 2007. And since then, it's been stagnating. No one ever actually took it seriously, because cross-organizational data sharing has always been a wet dream of organizations. And what OriginTrail is doing here is bringing this wet dream into reality. And also, whilst doing it, we're bringing EPCS into kind of more meaningful use. And now with the EPCS 2.0 standard, we're setting the bar even higher. We're involving the property of linked data to an even higher to an even higher level. So EPCS 2.0 is going to involve IoT data. It's also going to involve verifiable credential. And you know who does that? OriginTrail, since always, because of the properties of linked data. So not only we brought GS1 EPCS standard to a meaningful use, essentially, also, and this was one of the reasons why their representatives are so impressed, because we showed to bigger companies, look what we can do with EPCS standard. And I'm very much looking forward to what will be able to be shown in the next year with the EPCS 2.0 standard, which is very much going towards what OriginTrail does with the linked data property.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see personally the new standard come out too, and I know Brandimir's worked a ton on it with the working group, and I'm sure nobody wants to see it out more than he does at this point too, as being part of that working group. And don't worry, Brandimir, we're gonna get to you too. And Tomas, get your lab coat. You have the glasses on. Get your lab coat. I'm sure we'll come out. We got one for you coming up soon. All right. So this my next question. We've seen a noticeable decrease in jobs, new jobs over the past 2 weeks. When do you expect to see a consistent uptick in new jobs being added to the ODN by clients? Do you believe that won't be happening until SFC is in full swing? And we all know that there's no secret here. Ethereum gas sucks, right? We get that. And so do we expect to see more jobs once Starfleet chain ends up going live? I mean, is that the expectation? Is that now that once gas doesn't become an issue, people are like, great, let's throw everything we got. I mean, let's start really, putting this on the blockchain. Is that the case? I mean, should we expect to see a new uptick soon when SFC goes?
So the one challenge that we have been facing was adoption. Increased adoption with not the most optimal cost structure. And Starfleet, of course, is one of the initial steps that is going to leapfrog us from where we are currently, also in terms of the cost, and also in terms of the value being retained in the ecosystem, because still, someone is going to have to perform things that Ethereum was used for, but is going to be, within the OriginTrail ecosystem. And currently, that does not mean that the adoption is being blocked or stopped. It simply means that the ways also jobs were structured was in a way that we bundle things, and with the Starfleet, things are going to be essentially not going to be bundled anymore, so that we can offer even higher value to customers, and hopefully other companies also using OriginTrail directly without our involvement, even without NOS involvement, are going to be able to do so. And this is going to be bringing them higher value, because when you unbundle, you can actually connect points between different systems instead of
Right.
bundling everything into one centralized unity. So this is bringing greater value plus more jobs, and that's why Starfleet is an integral part of the main dish, quote unquote, because we have adoption, but still, we need this, and kind of it made sense to present this as such. And jobs are planned to increase because as a consequence of Starfleet.
And that's the thing right now.
Branimir, sorry.
Sorry, Brandon.
Now you're going to go more into detail. I just wanted to. Yeah.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to add on that I'm not sure that everybody's following the same numbers, because the numbers don't actually show any decrease. If I'm not mistaken, the November was actually one of the peak months for jobs, and OT Hub does a good job there, tracking all of it by community. So not entirely sure that the question was fully coming from a place of being fully informed. But other than that, I second what Giga said, and also when you think of it, it's as part of the whole process of publishing a certain job on the network. It is very much easier to think of going forward with more use cases, more implementations. One, you're not scared of like a transaction that costs $10 on Ethereum. So obviously that's going to change a lot of the game a lot, and mindset a lot when it comes to building more of these things. What's important here is that once the first players have been sort of have jumped in and have proven the technology worth and also maturity, which a lot of the crypto space still cannot really show, to be honest. Not to say that it's bad, but it's just very innovative. And I mean, just yesterday, I believe Filecoin had a big outage, which is one of the best projects, I have to say. The Protocol Labs team is someone who we also learn from, and even they had a major outage, which should not really happen on a blockchain, but bugs are a reality.
Well, for the record, and their tokenomics is not even compared to OT. Just throwing that out there, but yeah.
good to hear. But yes, so what I wanted to say is that it takes a long time to mature a technology, and then it takes a time for people to uptake, using it and introduce them into their, I have to say, old school systems. So when you speak about BSI, you're not speaking like people using the thing from 2020. It's more like something that's okay. It's still in the cloud perhaps, but it's relatively old school, and these bigger organizations change slowly. So it takes time, but once they're there, once everything is integrated, getting more of the data and knowledge in the future out is much easier, because that bridge has already been crossed basically and created in a way.
Well, and Brandon, correct me if I'm wrong, right? This is how I envision it right now. you guys are sending out pallets of data. You know, pallets, like companies ship product on pallets, right? Once Starfleet goes live, we can individually ship those different products to where they need to go. And in turn, doing that, it's easier to kind of connect or isolate each individual package, or versus sending a whole pallet of a shipment out. Is that more
Yeah.
kind
So perhaps one of the examples of the use of ODN, which might make this a bit clearer. Uh, let's take BSI for example. They are issuing training certificates to thousands of people, and right now, instead of issuing it on an individual basis as a like kind of a separate job, they're bundling it. And in the future, you as an individual receiving a certificate, training certificate from them, which is individually posted, published on the OriginTrail decentralized network, brings you more utility, you as a holder of a certificate. So this is perhaps the most dumbed down example, but now instead of having one publishing for one human being, we have, I think, 70 or 100 publishings, because it makes economic sense. It's all about economics. But in the future, going forward with Starfleet, these things are going to be decoupled and are going to be offering, of course, greater value for the ecosystem, plus greater utility for holders of certificates, holders of audit reports, etc.
It's
awesome.
great when Giga jumps into this, because I have a tendency to go very technical, and that means probably not as understandable
Hey,
for
you and
everyone.
me can go technical anytime you want in a fireside
All
chat,
right.
Branimir. We can do that for hours. Let me
Let's
know.
do it.
By the
Let's
way,
do it.
next event is going to be about Branimir bringing his music skills and showing what he does apart from being the CDO and a founder of OriginTrail. We just spoke to Amos. He's very much fond of having him around and seeing. Perhaps they're gonna be launching their own band.
Well, there's actually three people in the company that make music right now. Three developers actually. They all do DJing and music making. So we could do something with Amos probably together. Sounds
Awesome.
very good. Yeah, but what I
Perhaps
want
this
to
brings us to, sorry, Branimir, just not that much of a silly remark, but perhaps this can also segue well into the knowledge economy, because you can actually use OriginTrail knowledge economy phase or the OriginTrail decentralized graph for music as well as an individual.
Well, let Branimir talk. We're gonna get to that question because I have a whole thing I'm going by. When you start jumping around, you're gonna throw me all off, and I won't know what
Yeah.
question we're on. Branimir, what were you gonna say?
maybe it's better for one of the next questions, but it's actually it explains it helps explain the difference between knowledge and data, and I'm sure we're going to get there. And that also very much ties into what Giga said, which is the bundling.
That's literally a question. Somewhat I have coming up is the difference between knowledge and data. So we're gonna get there. I promise. So, because we need to know, because nobody knows, except for you. So, but this next question I'm gonna jump on right now with 20 million and to 50 million track tokens getting locked for 6 months, fewer tokens will become available for that period. An exchange listing would become even more necessary to allow some liquidity. Could you talk more about progress on that front? And I'm going to speak to this too, because say right now we needed 20 to 50 million tokens locked up, and you said, all right, go out and buy 20 to 50 million tokens. I'm not even sure how you could do that. The KuCoin servers would crash. I mean, it's so how are we doing on the liquidity front? I mean, obviously with in order to have the token to have this type of lockup, we need the token to be more exposed to more people. So can you speak to anything or progress on that front? And I know there's only so much you can ever say there, but can you speak to it in any at all?
Mm. Yeah. As we said, after the KuCoin hack, the liquidity has been one of the top priorities for us. And I know people are going to jump now, and why wasn't I don't know, Kraken announced, or Coinbase or Bitstamp or whatever announced at the liftoff event, and now we're all disappointed. It's really not about that. That's not the name of the game here. Um, we have been working very it's quite a lot after the KuCoin hack on new listings. Essentially now the OriginTrail case is on the desks of all tier one exchanges. But the main kind of difference in progress between us and perhaps other companies or quote unquote ecosystems that have VC backing is that there is no perhaps immediate alignment of interest between kind of quote unquote VCs of other projects, which are then essentially achieving that the token gets listed faster in order to dump those tokens to people who are waiting on the exchange to buy them. So we don't have that, and that's why progress is somewhat slower. But once we get there, we believe it's going to be a very, very hygienic path and very good start for anyone claiming that the newly listed trace or newly listed token on a tier 1 exchange. So we're getting there. Hopefully the progress is going to be fast. They have our case on their desks, all tier 1 exchanges. We are looking for ways how to potentially capitalize that, but the process is ongoing, and hopefully it will yield some results very, very soon. When it comes to 20 to 50 million tokens staked within the OriginTrail decentralized OriginTrail knowledge economy phase. One good thing that we noticed after the event was that there was a 60% conversion between people visiting the liftoff website, OriginTrail knowledge website, and the people who actually subscribed, who registered for staking. And that's a very, very encouraging thing. Actually, prior to announcing the OriginTrail knowledge economy, we spoke with the team. We did kind of a very fast inquiry as to how many people from the team would be interested to participate in the OriginTrail decentralized network under the economy. And we see that plenty of team members are going to be committing their holdings as well into this. So we expect a lot of excitement here, and we also expect these 20 or even 15 million to be filled in very quickly. So the least what anyone who's considering joining the next epoch should do, you should register your interest so that you're going to be fast enough in the next year, in the beginning, when we start onboarding and when we start staking into the economy. But going back to exchanges, bottom line is it's on the desks. It's a waiting game now. Hopefully it will be done soon. We don't know exactly when things are completed, because the exchanges would not let us know that. Again, perhaps those who have VCs have some different arrangements, but we never know in advance as to when we're going to get listed. Same happened with Bittrex a year and a half ago. We knew that we gone through all the audits. We knew that we submitted all the papers, and as a team of a decentralized project, we committed everything we had in order to make that happen. But when it actually happened, and before it actually happened, we had no clue. It was just a positive surprise, and I guess same is to be expected here.
I feel like the best way is that open PKG becomes so big that all the exchanges have to use it, and then and you're like, well, hey, you want to list track? You can integrate open PKG if you don't want all your users' data to be floating out there in a centralized database. So hey, could happen at some point. So I'm just going to answer this one live because someone said Guinness Dash can play the triangle. So Branimir, I play a mean triangle, just so you know. Like I can tap a triangle like you wouldn't believe. So I'm just going to throw that out there. All right, so the next question. I understand why businesses will adopt ODN from a cost savings supply chain perspective, but I'm curious how you plan to onboard average Joes to the knowledge economy, and what mechanisms will be used to compensate them for their data sharing. Do I get paid in fiat by companies that ask to access my data? What's in it for me besides data security? So yeah, so I mean, this data economy thing, and I feel like I kind of wish I moved another question before this, like data versus knowledge, but let's try to address this one first, like, and then I'll get to the data and knowledge one. Like, so what's in it for me, right? How am I going to be compensated? Why is my data important? What's valuable about my data? If you can speak to that.
It's so I guess you have many of you have seen the movie Social Dilemma, and this is just kind of a climax of all the wrong things that are happening with how our data is being treated by multinational corporations. So big corporations, also like Google, Facebook, who are very much savvy. They have all the tools, they have all the knowledge, they have all the capital to monetize what you produce. So you're essentially not consuming the product; you are producing, or part of their products. So the way OriginTrail is differentiated from Google and Facebook, and I know we oftentimes say that OriginTrail is a Google of supply chains, but what we are taking out of the Google is the technology, the underlying graph logic, and we actually take their tools and put those tools against the likes of Google and Facebook in terms of allowing consumers, so you Guinness, anyone from the community, anyone outside of the community, to become transition from being a consumer to becoming a prosumer in terms of being able to retain the value that is being created out of his or her data. Now, that might be private data, that might be the data that's being created by, let's say, Jason, you're a farmer and you have very cool IoT devices. You have a tractor, John Deere tractor, and John Deere is very much reaping benefits of having all that data stream back to their centralized database, and they're making improvements. So instead of that, we are putting OriginTrail in between, whereby you can actually gain control over your own data. We give you tools to tokenize your knowledge, not only data. So the difference between data is that knowledge is already much more useful because it's structured, because it's purposefully designed for certain, operation, and data doesn't have that capability. And I know we're going to be talking about the difference between data and knowledge later on, but it's very important to point out that the difference between what we do and perhaps some other companies which are only allowing for selling of data. We're doing it in a decentralized way, and we're already structuring knowledge out of it, and you can do it as an individual. And open PKG, so there was a question, and if we cover it, or at least touch upon it just briefly, because it's somewhat related, it's nothing wrong. This is not a POC. So OriginTrail economy, knowledge economy, has been in work since 2 years at least. And then the first POCs had been done with the next generation internet ledger. So that was done in the operational environment of the farming data. And now this is going to expand on both sides of the Atlantic with the NGI Atlantic. And there is another experiment very important to this, another proof of concept. It's called Open PKG. You already mentioned it. And this is where every individual can essentially not only request data from data processors, but you can actually get hold of that data and then potentially monetize it. So using the knowledge tokens tool. And then in order to be able to kind of retain control over that knowledge, you have knowledge wallet. So if you don't have your own keys, you don't have your own knowledge or your own property, your own asset. And this is what knowledge wallet provides. Knowledge marketplace essentially allows you to sell that data, sell that knowledge through the token, and this token acts as a means for accessibility. And tenders. Tenders is a very important component here, and the tenders was we did testing of tenders tools through the trusted COVID-19 essential supplies project, and this is where we figured out that not only you can sell your own knowledge, you can actually create a tender, and a bunch of you guys can come together and say, we need this bulk of data, which we are going to then structure. And in order for you to get the data, you are going to mint a knowledge token, and you're going to be offering that to all those who are going to be contributing knowledge into your own for your own purposes. And this is what tender is for. So many reasons, and the proof of concepts, we have done them ourselves. We expect more proof of concepts within the NGI experimentation to be rolled out next year. But we see that there is a lot of very cool idea as to what can be done within the OriginTrail knowledge economy. But of course, going kind of one step back, because again, the feedback we got was that we should first of all learn how to crawl, and only then we can walk, and only then we can run. We are doing this also because we want to walk faster, and because at the end of the day, want to run faster. So the Starfleet initiative, which is initiating the knowledge economy, is also very much crucial for the things OriginTrail is also performing today. So the base utility of the token for companies to be able to exchange data and for node holders to be able to be compensated for the data and of course Starfleet initiates this new era towards expanded both tokenomics and expanded utility for the users of OriginTrail. Oh boy, I have been talking so much and I already feel bad for.
Hey, no, it's all right. I just feel bad because I know I'm going to go through some questions of things you've already talked about, but but we can dive in a little more in some of the specifics of some of those topics. But I had a question here, but I feel like you already answered it pretty well. The team mentioned before that main dish should be announced by partner organizations, not by Trace Labs. So should we expect more partner organizations coming out soon? Maybe throwing some stuff out there. Should we be hearing the OriginTrail name possibly coming out more in whether it's a traditional media or even some of the crypto space for adoption?
Yeah, so all this is prediction, and I guess the history is the best knowledge provider for the extrapolation into
the ODN's the best knowledge provider. Hey,
that's the best knowledge provider, but we do have knowledge on the ODN already. So let's say ODN is the best knowledge provider, and if we extrapolate the activity from the current and the past use of ODN and the growth of that, this of course we are expecting that. So what exactly the partners will say, what exactly the new clients will say, I guess it goes back to what the main dish was intended to be. So the partners themselves are talking about the use of OriginTrail. The partners themselves are talking about the adoption, and this principle will stay very much in action. And we expect partners to talk more and more about us. And if we go back to January of this year, when we knew what was going on, what was brewing with some very cool things, we didn't speak about it. And it was not until the first white paper and until other partners from EU started talking about it, when we provided more meat to it. And Innovate UK might be one such example. We didn't know that BSI is going to spill the beans about that governmental project, and actually we cannot provide more details about that because we don't have permission. But suffice it to say, it's a governmental project, and we are going to be able to talk about it very much soon. We just need to we need to get BSI signing off on that.
Well, it's funny because it sounds like you guys are like us. Everybody started Googling what the heck this was. And then we were looking it up. We're like, what the heck is this Innovate UK and something Bytes? I don't remember. But now, but we were trying to look it up. So you guys were as surprised as we were. So that's good. That's a good thing. That goes to show that there is adoption happening out there from a decentralized aspect, meaning not just from the team or for proof of concepts or whatever. I mean, it's being used and you're winning awards that you don't even know you won. So that's a good sign. So I'm gonna go. This might be a Branimir question, and might be I don't know. Everything seems to be a Giga question today too. So I imagine you might have something to say on this one. But no, it's all right. When will the integration of NOS with multiple exchanges happen? When will we start seeing market buys via NOS on those exchanges? And now I feel like this whole script is flipped. Because now it sounds like at some point companies could be using us as liquidity providers. So now you have us being liquidity providers, so maybe you're not as dependent on the Uniswaps of the world. But so can you give any info on that? I mean, are we going to start? Is NOS still going to be set up the same way we thought it was in early this year when you launched the white paper about talking about the integrations? Or now that we're going to be seeing a different liquidity pool coming out, should we expect NOS to migrate more towards something like that? Or whoever wants to answer this, I don't know.
Yes, so maybe I start. So essentially, it's it was never really the idea for NOS to be any sort of significant main technology that is going to drive this whole process. So it was meant to be as one of the services that enables someone as a company to get into the ability of using the technology easier, without having to, for example, utilize directly, let's say, a blockchain engineer. They would be able to set up and publish data publishing with a traditional traditional style of API way. And they would be able to access the API, which then connects to the liquidity provisioning service, which then obtains liquidity from somewhere. And this somewhere has always been, well, basically any good liquidity source that you can integrate. So the tools that are being introduced that we have announced on the event actually extend this, that they enable that not only are you able to get from the traditional, let's say, DEXs and TEXs, but rather have the ability to get this liquidity from elsewhere, which is meaning that all the liquidity services, and there are multiple of them actually, are intended to make the trace token work for the ecosystem. Instead of having, because right now you can be able either to run a node and do that for well, the purposes of getting the rewards, the compensation for helping the network run, or it could be trading and so forth. But if you are not doing any of these, if you're not technical enough, you cannot really contribute, right? So it's basically, if you're not trading, if you're holding the token, it's somewhere on the side, and there's a lot of this token. And the idea is to get all this to play and help the ecosystem work. So provide this as liquidity, and for different things, like for example, for the existing services, such as the OriginTrail decentralized knowledge graph. So nodes that are already running, if you have been, let's say, a token holder having tokens, but didn't want or know how, or didn't really, cross the line of deciding to run a node, you could delegate your liquidity to somebody to run the node, to run nodes and get some rewards on that. So that means someone who already has a running node and doesn't maybe have the funds to get additional liquidity to get more jobs, can in this way qualify for more. So it's a win-win game. In a similar way, what Giga also mentioned, the knowledge tokens is something where the liquidity will also play. And then finally, anybody who's actually in the need to obtain the tokens will have all these facets to get them out of. So essentially, circling back around to the NOS liquidity provisioning service, it was built that it can source liquidity from all of these pools. And essentially that means that it's not, actually the whole idea was never to get super tied to the centralized exchanges, because that's that's not really the whole idea while we're here. So I'm sure
Right.
that at least that's understandable. But having an array of things, so all of these different options is something that has been the idea. And the idea also with the liquidity provisioning tools is that others can build their own liquidity provisioning services. So another company can be building on OriginTrail without having the need to use, the NOS liquidity provisioning service. But they can use the tools, bundle them together, and then build something on top. Think of it as a bit like Parity is offering substrate for building blockchains. You have a template, you have building blocks, you pick a couple of building blocks, you integrate them together, and you can basically run your own chain. And think of ODN as such a set of tools, not for building blockchains, but for building tools for knowledge, and for particularly knowledge exchange, which means knowledge monetization, creation, extraction, learning, and then the tools are obviously applied in different ways for different industries, or the example is the very good one that the Giga mentioned. Because, for example, when you think of, you asked about the value of data and how much do you know is it valuable? It's actually quite a big problem to determine exactly the value, and that's why markets are a great tool. So the knowledge token would actually be a market between the knowledge token and trace, and depending on the actual property of that market, you will be able to basically dynamically in real time price the knowledge token. And on the other hand, it is basically not even an assumption anymore. It's a given. You can start from the hypothesis, from an axiom. I think that's the English word, math axioms, right? uh, that basically that says that the data is inherently valuable, but data as a highly raw form is much less valuable than knowledge, which is a highly structured form of elements built out of data. So in that sense, when you go and do your thing on Facebook, post, like pictures, and scroll, even when you like stop scrolling for a couple of seconds to look at something, you're basically giving away very valuable data. You're saying to Facebook, I'm interested into this. They know what that is. How do they know about that? But because they've indexed it, and that makes the difference between knowledge. Now they know. They don't just have a data set. Oh, this has been a scroll at position 400 pixels and yada yada. It's about connecting different terms. They know on top of what you've been scrolling, how long, and they can take this history of like past years you've been using that and know exactly what type of data to serve you, or really not to serve you. That's the key problem there.
It's no different than when I look up dog food and all of a sudden Facebook tells me I need to buy dog food. You know, it's the same idea. It's the same idea. Yeah.
And it happens across the websites because they share. So if you look at something on Google, it might very likely show up on your Facebook.
So hold on, Giga. I know you're going to jump in, and so you guys are getting into my next question, but I just want to end this question before I get to the. I know we're the knowledge data thing. You guys can't wait to talk about this, so we're getting that literally the next question. But I want to jump back to the question I just asked about as far as the NOS and liquidity. So essentially, you're making this is probably one of the first real use cases of DeFi I've seen yet, like real use cases, not just we put something in and we reap rewards of going into a pool or something. Because essentially you're creating a decentralized finance ecosystem in a way where people are pooling liquidity. Businesses are able to use that liquidity in those tokens, and people are benefiting from contributing to that pool. So it's not just staking and here's your 8.6% for doing nothing. Like, we're actually seeing real decentralized finance and what it was supposed to be bred for being used by businesses because they're able to leverage that liquidity. And I think that's a huge thing that people need to realize that maybe it wasn't even clear during the liftoff event.
So one of the dumbest kind of add-ons to the current tokenomics is that for now it was just the DCs who were contributing indexes or contributing data for which you as a data holder would need to be compensated. With the knowledge economy, it's also going to be data creators who are be selling that data, creating indexes, and also compensating data holders to hold this universe of indexes for the knowledge for which data for which knowledge tokens are going to be minted. And perhaps, I mean, there's going to be tons of examples that we're going to be going through in the next year. And one of perhaps cool things, if you are still up to it, I know that we talked about it about your project in school, about the laboratory. So the knowledge economy is not only intended for individuals to protect and monetize their data. It's also designed for smaller initiatives, for school projects, for scientists, for just about anyone, musician, to monetize their knowledge. And for you, for example, you could install Kakasi camera and then show what are the most optimal conditions for the plants growing in your laboratory, and you can sell that data stream to companies which are interested in this in growing the same plant as yours. And then in turn, when you mint the knowledge token, you would see liquidity providers, those who are not running nodes but they are still providing signaling, collateralizing for the token that you just minted. And in that way they would signal, yeah, we know Ginestash and we kind of vouch for him that he really knows how to construct the best possible knowledge out of data that has integrity. So one of the aspects here is that those who provide liquidity are also signaling for the integrity and the quality of the knowledge that you provide. So this might be a very nice trial to see how you, as you are a systems administrator at the school, and you're also helping with the equipment, and you might use that cool Kakasi device to create data, and then perhaps someone from school can structure it into a knowledge and then monetize it through the knowledge economy.
And I think that's one of the things in education. I'll just use an example because I'm close to it. I work in education, being in IT, is that there's not a lot of funds always coming in, right? But there's something that's always getting made is data. Data is always every day in the school systems is getting created. More data than anywhere probably.
There is, I mean, one interesting comparison Tomasz did at the presentation at Liftoff was Airbnb. I mean, back in 2000, let's say before the dot-com bubble and well after dot-com bubble, you as an individual, it was impossible for you to rent out your house to like people coming from the other part of the world. And there is one interesting thing which I'm quite proud of. Last year, just 1 year ago, I decided to put my parents' house on Airbnb since they moved out and they now live on a farm, and that house has mostly been vacant. And one day I stayed at that house and I was wondering what could I do with this house in order not to be just sunk cost or whatever. And I published it on the Airbnb. And for the New Year's Eve, we already had guests. And then in January, February, we had a guy from Austin, so from other part of the world, coming to Florian, which is like godforsaken place on this earth. But for someone from Austin, that asset seems interesting enough to come and visit and stay there. And then in April comes a Chinese couple which works for a company that was acquired by Chinese to be closer to that factory to work there. And he comes and he rents a house for Airbnb. And now during the Corona, he decided to rent the house not through the Airbnb, but for the entire year. So we, as a family, we were able to utilize the underutilized asset, and same way underutilized assets. Real estate can be used using the Airbnb, and same way your knowledge can be utilized and put to a good use, to a better use, using the OriginTrail knowledge economy, because it follows the same principles of the sharing economy, and it's really exciting to see how much of the knowledge right now is just lying there and no one is exploiting it, or worse yet, someone else is exploiting it instead of you. So you're just becoming part of that product and generating something. You're becoming that rat, just running the wheels of bigger corporations. And now you can actually, you as a small industrialist, you as a small individual, you as someone working for the company, exploit that capability. It's
right. No, and then that's the thing is that's a perfect example of data that nobody thought could become now useful or something nobody even thought they could monetize, and now look, and so when people can't imagine certain things that like, well, how do I monetize my data? Well, this thing's getting born all the time that's showing how you can monetize that. And I'm going to jump into this next question, which I know we just answered in every single other question, but in case there's anything you want to add, and I'm sure Branimir will want to add some stuff in here too, is in layman's terms, what exactly is knowledge? Is it different than data? Can you give an example use case of a company using knowledge, which you just did? But someone, this guy David in the community, he shared a post the other day, and I loved it because basically it dumbed it down for people where say you're driving a car and you see a red light. Red is data, right? It's red. But our knowledge tells us that we have to stop at that red light. So there's more to it than that. And that's really the big difference between data and knowledge. Data is this raw stuff that we just know, red, stop. But because of the knowledge we learned, we've taken driving classes, we've been on the streets, we've driven cars, we understand that means stop, and we understand the implications if we don't stop, that we might get in a car accident if we go through that red light. So do you want to talk from a layman's perspective? And I know we have a little bit, but more about the knowledge and data.
So from a layman's perspective, a very good metaphor, I believe, is similar to the red light one you mentioned, is really take any book. And if you take the words just as a bundle and throw them, on a piece of paper, you can consider them data, because there's, each of these words has some sort of meaning, but it's very isolated, like the color red, or the red light, or the red jacket, like you're having the blazer. It's not the same thing. But think of words as data. Think of sentences or pages in a book really as information, because you can learn a bit more. It's organized data already. And then the whole book can really be seen as a knowledge. and particularly some points about the book. You have, let's say, a table of contents, because it helps you navigate through the information and the data you have. You have the index at the back of the book. So that means if you're looking for a term, let's say the knowledge graph, and you're having a data science, whatever book, you can, spin it all the way back, find the term knowledge graph. It says it's on this and this and this and this page, and you can go and check that specific information. You're not needed to run through the whole book to read to it. So knowledge is really, in this way, the closest to the term of book. And then the wisdom is, when I read this book, how do I implement that inside of the existing knowledge I have and in the context of the world that I live in? So do I stop on the red light? And in that sense, if you look at, for example, the ODN, you can, it's very flexible. You can go from the position of publishing, let's say, all the, let's say, a CSV file of all Elon Musk tweets. Maybe that's valuable. And that is just a bunch of tweets, so you can consider it data. But if you organize this into information that, for example, you connect tweets by hashtag or by topics, it's already more organized. So it's more akin to the pages in the book. And then finally, going all the way to knowledge is really going into this ability of indexing. So if I'm supposed to, let's say, publish some information that I generate on a daily basis, if it were organized well according to certain terms, then knowledge is applicable. So for example, think of Google. When you go to Google and you type something in, you search for a term, I don't know, zebras in Africa, whatever. Zebras in Africa is a bunch of words, right? Google doesn't go through its whole set of data to search in every single line where the zebras in Africa term can be found. Or maybe maybe somewhere it's written zebras Africa. Maybe there's a comma in between. There's all these different variations. How does Google find it? Well, Google organizes data into knowledge. That's why it uses the knowledge graph and basically indexes, like on the book. Google has a huge index, and it basically, whenever it looks, it doesn't look down on the data level. It looks into its knowledge graph and says, aha, I know about this index term, about zebras, I know this, about Africa, I know this. What's the intersection? Aha, okay, I can show you that. Perhaps because actually Google is learning from us, we're giving data every time we search. So every time we do some search, Google learns a bit more. And in a way, it gets improved, which is useful for us as users. I mean, Google has been very beneficial to the world. But in that sense, the same technology would not work if it were not built on the premises of knowledge. And if somebody would even go, I would go that far. And if anybody's interested, go look into why Google succeeded at being the search engine. They actually implemented a very clever and very simple knowledge, basically graph technique. The PageRank algorithm basically takes different pages and it sort of has a point system where the links between pages are more meaningful. So that means that if there's a term or a website, we can just say it's a term, like OriginTrail.io is really, for Google, it's just another term. If there's a lot of things linking to it, that means its rank is higher, and that means it's more valuable. And in parallel, think of the OriginTrail knowledge economy. Think of many different sources, many different people signaling that something is more valuable. It's a very similar approach in that sense. And Google is, at least is believed in that mostly due to this PageRank algorithm, has been given vastly superior search results to all other engines that at least I remember when I was a kid using. All the Lycos and Alta Vistas and everything was really just, I don't know if they even exist anymore. So they've been swallowed by this knowledge graph, and that's the 80% of the innovation comes from really observing the internet as a graph and applying the PageRank, which is really simple, counting how many things link to each other.
So I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, today, right? Say you and Amos come up with a really cool track that you make together and we Google it, right? And if enough people watch it, it moves up in the ranks. But essentially, what you're saying is if you and Amos make a really cool track and we use this data economy, not only is it going to move up the ranks, but you're going to benefit because it did move up the ranks, because you're really going to see the fruit of your efforts take place, because there's not just the centralized entity in the background who's benefiting from this, but you're benefiting of this because it was your data and it got searched so much that so now you're getting compensated for it more or less. So
Absolutely, and I mean it's a song when or a track is really obviously some sort of a file, so it's less indexable in terms of like something like a science paper, but it's not it's not it's still indexable in the sense of assigning a lot of interesting metadata to this. For example, the usual, the genre and the record information, the record label, and all of that stuff. Uh, all of that basically enables you to index that into the knowledge graph. So that means somebody is able to find it, and then once this first step is completed, when somebody finds what they need, the next step is to determine the type of exchange. So do you want to monetize it? Do you want to give it out for free? You might want to spread your music out for free. But the knowledge economy tools enable you to find whatever you're looking for, and then request to get it, and either get it for free or most likely get some sort of compensation mechanism behind that. And that's where the knowledge tokens come into play, and that's where basically you're allowed to build any type of a system on top of that. So it's a set of tools that operates on the protocol that already exists and indexes basically the whole world in the knowledge graph. So think of it, for example, even in a different term. You're scrolling all over the internet every day. And imagine having an app that you run that's open source, that's, let's say, in your browser, and you collect this information just as Facebook collects information on you when you're on Facebook. But like you collect that as well, but you collect on all our websites. If you were having a tool to bundle this information nicely and put it out in the market, but bundle it in such a way that, let's say, scrolling on, I don't know, what's the cool website, whatever, bitcoin.com, you and I scroll, our information could be both anonymized and joined together. So if Tomasz wants to buy what the hell people are doing on bitcoin.com, he can buy it from us without knowing who we are, and
yeah.
without needing to buy it separately from you and from me and from 100,000 other people, but really just go to that term, see that, okay, there's like 100,000 data sets that connect into this bundle of knowledge, and you can purchase it. And that's all that really they're looking for in that sense. So not really particular data sets and doing this one by one, but actually doing something which is already very well established in the OriginTrail technology. So if anybody wants to look at the API and has a bit of the technical experience, if you run the trail query, which is really the first case for it was really to have a trail of an object. It can be a trail for a term as well. So if you do a trail query, you will get data from multiple data sets in one response. You don't have to query every data set. And then you can actually take every data set and verify its integrity. But from that point, you get all of the information on one single term, for example, a supply chain identifier, in one question. You don't really care if it's from 5 books or, I don't know, letters or emails. It's all connected. That's what you really want. Again, that's what makes knowledge so much more powerful than data.
And I'm glad we had this open office hours as close as we did to the event, because what you're saying now, I think, is bringing a lot more clarity to the community as far as when we talk about data and the knowledge, and and I think it was needed, and I thank you for that, because the examples you gave are awesome, and I think a lot of people are already, I can see in Telegram. I'm not really reading Telegram, but I'm seeing everybody's just getting excited, so I can already tell that it's transitioning uh well over to the community, and explain it like I'm 5, as I called this open office hours, and it's so thank you for that, and I think people are getting it now, so it's
I think
cool.
one cool example, because examples perhaps make it clear, is the let's say Bitcoin, Qcoin gets hacked again, or CZ gets hacked again. actually then you can apply OriginTrail decentralized knowledge graph as a tool, same way as we did it last year when we ran an experiment on tracing the hacker. And so a specific data point within a Bitcoin network is just kind of a data point. But when you connect movements of stolen funds into something which is a graph, you create knowledge. And when you do so, as let's say you, Jason, do it again, there's another KuCoin hack, and you help compile that data, you help connect that data into meaningful knowledge, you pack it, and then you perhaps even enable data streams so that this graph grows as the hacker moves funds. And then you say, CZ, I have this very cool subgraph, and I have a knowledge token behind it, but I'm gonna sell it to you if you want to track where the stolen funds are moving. You issue your own knowledge token. Community provides liquidity because they see this is a very, very legitimate case, and then CZ comes and buys that token in order to have access to the knowledge stream. So this is one of the things, and one of very interesting examples, a very new one, and as we already spoke about Kraken and other exchanges, there's an interesting, I'm not going to make too much of a promotion because I think OriginTrail is much more superior, but one such of sub-segments of use cases is being offered by the graph. So what you can essentially do here, you can establish your own the graph case on OriginTrail decentralized knowledge graph, and you can essentially initiate initial knowledge offering and offer that knowledge token for access to that stream. So the possibilities are limitless, and I'm mentioning the graph because people are talking about it, and essentially OriginTrail can do that way more easily and in a proven way because the network is already here, and now every individual is going to be able to monetize that.
Yeah, it's funny. We used to always say old saying, knowledge is power, but now knowledge is money. Like, I mean, and then we're gonna see that more and more over time when people have that knowledge to offer to these companies, which is going to be huge. Yeah, thanks for going over that, Tomas. I feel like this is a Tomas question. Getting you in this one right now. Are the new applications based on needs of organizations? So when you see a lot of these things coming up right now, are these organizations reaching out saying, hey, we need XYZ, and we know your technology is capable of doing that. Can you develop this solution for us? Is that why we're seeing a lot of these new applications come up, is because there's specifically people going to the team? Because something someone said was, I feel like the team is working on so many things. And I said, well, that's probably a good thing. That means they're being requested to work on these so many things. So, I mean, it's a good problem to have. So are these organizations coming to you with these needs, and then you're developing these needs? You're not just doing them just to do them for the sake of doing them, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's we're definitely involved in a lot of projects with a lot of organizations that are also welcomed at the Liftoff event, and it's, of course, they're reaching out. Like, so we have a lot of inbound. If that's kind of the first part of that question, I think that it's partly due to the good work that we've seen with the current partners, but it's also just of the fundamental strength of the technology itself and the positioning of the entire ecosystem and what it can deliver. So and I think that's going to become more and more apparent as we go in the future. And if we're talking right now is, are the kind of knowledge economy tools something that were required by companies? I guess you can divide those type of requirements in some identified and some non-identified needs of the organizations and businesses, and then of course it's up to the of kind of the team in this case to have a understanding and the appreciation of what has been expressed in which way, and especially that with what we take in addition to that is what's the long-term vision of where we're trying to put this OriginTrail ecosystem going forward. If I go concretely, if someone's going to come, hey, develop this feature, and you're only going to be developing feature by feature, you're not going to get very far, because whatever got you to a point is not going to get you to the next point. So it's more about how can you distill the learnings that were here since 3 years ago, if we're talking about the OT as an ecosystem, even longer if we're talking about the general start of the project itself. How can we combine this, and what are the key drivers that are going to enable us to enhance the value of the ecosystem, enhance the value for not only the businesses, also what are the other stakeholders that can be brought to the picture that are creating a win-win effect, right? So we were talking about the the importance of knowledge and how it can be monetizable. It's exciting for the individuals because, okay, cool, you can monetize something that maybe you have sporadically or serendipitously created as a side effect of your day-to-day life. But also you can look at or try to predict what are really the things that organizations are going to be needing, right? So we were looking at a lot of stuff that's even the trusted repository, right? So this is data that was open and available, but it was data, right? So it was just blobs sitting here and there. So if it's not connected, if it doesn't have integrity, if it's not offered in a easy digestible way, it's not doesn't have really that value. So when you're thinking about this type of expressed or identified and non-identified or non-expressed requirements of organizations, at such paradigm shifting moments, you gotta look a little bit more holistically and trying to really distill what is the key things that are going to drive the ecosystem forward, and kind of seeing the kind of putting one against the other. What are the certain things that we were hearing, and what are the things that we see OT ecosystem going forward? There's a very good overlap, but in addition, we see a lot more value that can get unleashed within the OT ecosystem. So I think that's the exciting part. Like, so at least looking at just the how Trace can do more things, how you can put it. I mean, it's like taking a puppy and we taught him how to sit. It's great. It'll still be able to sit, but now we're going to teach him so much more things, and there's going to be just more kind of capabilities.
No one can ever complain about more utility.
Yeah, so that's it, right? But it's all kind of hand in hand also with what the businesses, the organizations have been looking at. So I hope that answers.
Yeah, I'm gonna. There's another question that this kind of meshes to what you were just saying. And is like, are there any organizations that are asking for the knowledge economy? Are you developing as a proof of concept? We heard Jiga earlier say, no, this isn't a proof of concept. This is something that's being made for a certain, a real purpose. And much like you're saying, you're not doing this just for the sake of doing it. You're doing it because there's a real purpose. There's a need for this stuff. Something like, for instance, like jumps out at me is GDPR. For the EU, this seems like a really perfect fit for this. So when with this question, are there any organizations that are asking for knowledge economy? I would have to think that that there must be some ties there with GDPR, with why this is getting created and why this could get used soon because of those types of regulations. I mean, is the EU interested in itself in this type of technology, as far as you know? I mean, without trying to say too much that you can't say or anything.
I mean, it's we've been talking about what were the segues, also what were the stepping stones towards the certain tools that were spoken about with regards to the knowledge economy. Like NGI, the Next Generation Internet Initiative, is a huge initiative within EU that focuses a lot on the things that we've been chatting about for the last hour or so. So things like data privacy, privacy by design approach to things. How can you allow the individuals to take control, have like a human-centric internet as we go in the future. All of these things are very, very aligned with the things that knowledge economy is bringing, and including the marketplaces. So when we're talking about the POC, it's a very words of many meanings in many different heads. I wouldn't say it's a POC just because of so many things that were previously done in, like laboratory data marketplace, food data marketplaces. They've both been that was a POC basically, right? Where certain components were validated. Things how does it work? How can knowledge really be transacted via a marketplace? What we're talking about here right now is just it's a huge step forward from the POC that was previously done for all of these different tools.
Awesome.
Yeah,
maybe
we have since, not that technical thing, but we have always been developing things by following the money principle. So whenever there was a business need, whenever there was a governmental need or a European Union was calling for such solutions, we provided a component which was an initial POC for what now we're seeing is going to mature into the decentralized economy. And what that means is that we have both validated and made things economically sustainable, both for the team and for the future development. So yes, it is based on organization's needs, but there is one particular organization in this case which is also instructing us as a company to develop something that is designed for people, being human-centric, and that is European Union. And we see that this direction is very much it is going to prolong in the future. So European Union is going to be supporting us until this matter of better privacy handling is resolved. So we see that this is a kind of a very, very legitimate path to follow. And this also gave us a head start between anyone offering either marketplaces, data or knowledge marketplaces, anyone offering kind of graph or degraph for anything. This gave us a head start because we already had commercial cases. We're not only developing technology, it's already been confirmed. The validation is a huge advantage of OriginTrail.
And Branimir, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that the decentralized DPCS repository we saw in the event with Dominic from the Swiss railway company is in a way one of the examples of such systems built on the knowledge economy. So they're looking at sharing, but not just sharing for the purposes of sharing random data within the system. It's really not very highly structured data, which is as we spoke, in the realm of knowledge, which is the EPCS, standardized data, and the whole subset of entities that are a part of this knowledge economy have a specific application that's useful for them. So the decentralized EPCS repository for rail is really focused on the rail knowledge of what's going on within the European rail system, which is multiple entities, not just the Swiss railway company, because trains don't just stay within one country. And their whole idea is actually that the wider European rail ecosystem is able to exchange this data. And I don't probably need to tell anyone that, of course, there would never be an easy agreement as to where this data should reside if it had to be in one country or in one place or one system. So there was an immediate one-to-one match with a decentralized technology like OriginTrail. What they were looking also at was, all of these questions he posted, like how do I know the updates on something? How do I find a specific object? And that's it was something that even from the beginning of OriginTrail has been designed to make, but the industry has followed and matured in such a way that you already have the need for this economy, and that basically this what Giga said is not being developed as a, oh, here it is, this nice technology that we can use, like maybe a set of smart contract that has some nice game theoretical thing that you mentioned has a 80% return or whatever. I really like these experiments. They're very cool, but it's a very huge difference from this going to a person working in the rail industry having very tangible problems that if they're not tackled, maybe, some train will go off the tracks. And then you really kind of have to get your hands dirty. You get into the mud. You're no longer just writing smart contracts and working with APIs. You're touching real systems, and you're discussing like all the way from some code to the actual structure of this data, and then going to the blockchain layer. It's a very long sort of stretch of things that you need to get. So what I'm trying to point at here is that we wouldn't be moving into an uncharted territory of building something without having gone through this whole getting our hands dirty and muddy move with all the companies. And that's what's really the biggest advantage. Sometimes it's really hard, but it's awesome because we know exactly what is needed by the industry. We just we cannot build it in a centralized way, and that gives an additional component of complexity there. And also the tools have to be fully open source. So it's necessary. in that sense. And it was necessary to get this knowledge, because it's hard from the get-go. If you don't know exactly where you're going, then most likely will not be able to succeed. So
and this is a great segue into my next question, because everything the three of you just said, I can't fathom anything not using the ODN, whether it's rail parts, whether it's personal people's data, whether it's the EU, system, whatever it is. So this next question, someone said, is Google a competitor to track in the future? And everything you just said, it kind of sounds like when you're not just Google for supply chains, but it's like a new way to Google. It's a new way to hold data. It's a new way to structure data. It's a new way to secure data. It's a new way to utilize data. So do you see OriginTrail being, as a technology, being a competitor to Google?
So since the offset of the OriginTrail, we've always been following the blue ocean strategy. And roughly red ocean, blue ocean strategy is very much different from red ocean, because in red ocean, there are a lot of competitors. Everybody's eating each other. So there's blood. It's a red ocean. Whereas our strategy is to find the blue ocean, regardless of how small this blue ocean is. And 10 years ago, we started swimming in a very, very tiny, small ocean of providing differentiation for honest food suppliers, making it more transparent for consumers to know where food is coming from, to see that the claims are actually trusted, etc. So that was kind of a food blue ocean back then. And then we expanded because we saw that the same technology can be used in several other sectors. And then we went towards decentralization. We got you guys on board, thankfully. So now we have this community of, first of all, 750 nodes which are ensuring integrity. So we expanded the blue ocean, not only because we have a community, but also because we provide technology which is not only ensuring integrity but also bringing knowledge out of data. And this is something that none of the solutions in the landscape is doing. Ethereum, Bitcoin, they're providing trusted transactions. Yes, but they're not, bringing knowledge out of the vastness of data that is being exchanged. It's only OriginTrail who does that. There are some attempts like Filecoin. They're trying to produce something as a decentralized Dropbox. But again, data is not indexed there. Files, you don't make sense out of the vastness of files. So only OriginTrail has this leapfrog position in terms of how data is being created, and at the same time, we are permissionless. And in that respect, we are far away from Google in terms of how more inclusive we are. We are permissionless, we're open source, we are decentralized. Whereas Google, although they're using the same technology for indexing, they are a central actor. They're opaque. They are trying to get your data, and then they're trying to build profitable business models, which is fine, which is an old world. I mean, most of the companies are doing it. But what we're trying to propose here is not an alternative, an appealing alternative for many individuals to come together and build their own alternatives from Google. So it's not only us. We're not a company. We're an ecosystem. We're providing tools for individuals, for companies, to essentially be better in this new knowledge economy, data economy. And same way. Back in the days, it was only hotels offering you to come and stay there. Now it can be the two of us. We can offer our houses. So the same way, we believe that our tools are going to be empowering individuals and the companies to be more successful in this knowledge economy. So we're not competing, bottom line, but we're providing tools for people to be to actually exploit their knowledge better. And what Google does, I mean, we don't know. We just see that some of this Google, Facebook are doing are not the most optimal for society.
Yep. I see it, the technology, as an evolution to what Google's done. But just like you said, is it taking the centralized out of we're bringing the good from Google to the next step with leaving the centralization behind. And I think that's important that people realize that this is not only just going to be a nice to have, it's going to be a need to have soon, and especially with a lot of the regulations going on, and as long as Zuckerberg's selling data over to Cambridge Analytica or whatever, so needs to happen.
Exactly.
I'm gonna try. All right, so let's go to this next one. Don't worry, I'm gonna try it. We don't have a ton left, so bear with us. This is probably one of the most impactful office hours yet. So I'm sorry if it's going a little over an hour and a half, but At liftoff, we saw the unveiling of the knowledge economy. Can we confirm that it's a separate than Starfleet chain? Could you clarify the timelines for Starfleet chain? And I just want this is like an explain it like I'm 5 for people. So I got all these people freaking out to me being, so wait, Starfleet chain comes out a year from now? And I'm like, no, it's completely separate. Think of the data economy project is very separate, different than Starfleet. Starfleet is a blockchain that's coming out soon, that anyone can utilize to save on these gas fees. And it's just they have to understand that it's completely separate. Like this knowledge economy is not dependent on I should say Starfleet's not dependent on the knowledge economy. Starfleet's something that we should see soon. This knowledge economy project is a separate entity. So can you just clarify that? And what's the timeline looking for Starfleet?
Bottom line, Starfleet is a vehicle towards optimized functioning of the OriginTrail decentralized network, plus is the vehicle to reach the OriginTrail decentralized economy. So it precedes the OriginTrail decentralized economy. It's coming earlier. Timeline-wise, Branimir, would you perhaps shed some more light on this?
So as launching of any system, there's going to be a couple of phases that are common for launching a network such as the Starfleet. Basically, there's going to be a testnet launch followed by a mainnet launch. So the testnet is going to be obviously an environment where we're at the technology readiness level that can actually be validated, not just in the laboratory. So basically that would be the technology readiness level 7. By the way, we as a team use the NASA technology readiness level scale, so you can look it up. So technology readiness level 7 will be where we validate the technology in the real environment, and then from that moment on move to TRL 8 and 9, which are basically the completeness stages of the technology. So launching the Starfleet chain there's two things there. First, we need to get the technology ready. Then we need to, when we kickstart it, it needs to be used, right? So in order for it to be used, the tokens need to be available on the chain. So, and since building a two-way bridge is another project which is going to follow, this bridge is not necessarily needed for the ODN to work with both Starfleet and Ethereum. So it makes sense to roll out in stages. So we roll out Starfleet to chain first, and then when it's roll out, basically at its inception, at Genesis, we have the tokens already ready, the Star Trek tokens. And these Star Trek tokens get there by this boarding process that we have introduced. So the boarding process, basically, we expect to finish by end of January. That means we need to do some things that are absolutely necessary and essential, such as, for example, the smart contract audit. Well, the smart contracts are, by the way, already published on GitHub, so anybody can take a look. And I invite anyone from the community, if you're interested, to look into it, potentially find any security flaw you might see that we haven't seen, which is possible. But also, apart from a community review and a specific RFC that has been published for it, you can look that up on the RFC repository as well, which in detail explains the functional and non-functional requirements of the contract. Basically, once we figure all this out and test with the third party that security is on the level that it must be in order to hold millions of tokens, then from this moment on, tokens get locked. And then when the Starfleet chain is born within the Starfleet launch window, they become immediately available on the Starfleet chain. So the launch window is really gives room for these activities to happen, for the testnet, for the mainnet launch, and then for the genesis of the tokens. And then from that moment on, we have Starfleet as chain operational, we have Ethereum, and these two chains working together with the ODN. So whoever's not transitioned to Starfleet, everything remains the same. So the Ethereum-based functionality is still there, but the ones who have transitioned to Starfleet will be able to use both chains. And that means basically reap the benefits of both economies, jobs on both systems. And that is going to be like that for a while until the bridge is launched. Now there's a bridge launch window, which also is going to go through the technology readiness level phases from basically from 2 upwards to 8 and 9. And obviously, because it handles tokens, it has to be taken with extra care. It's not it's not just any system that might go down for a bit, or maybe so it has to be very resilient. And having that said, there's going to be this window of time between the Starfleet blockchain launch and the two-way bridge launch, where it's going to be only a group of us who have transitioned to Starfleet, using and benefiting from this economy. Now, these windows, like I said, they're presented so that we don't overwhelm anyone with all these intermediate milestones, such as the testnet launches and so on. But all of these will be actually published in the coming weeks, actually, because we will need to put this into the roadmap to know exactly when which launch is to be expected. We expect the community to join and participate, both in the testnet, obviously in the boarding process, and definitely in helping around the system with both going through the existing, but also proposing RFCs. We're, by the way, at Mark 10. There's a couple of RFCs in the work that are still not published. They're going to be published relatively soon. So the first 10 RFCs are out. I invite everyone once again to take a look. And if you have any great ideas or feedback, that's really the best place to put them, because it's a very structured discussion and everything is explained down to the details. So for this moment on, if you're looking into the staking procedure, you can to the detail see how the smart contract works. It's not very complex, so even if you're not that familiar with smart contracts but know some programming, you should be able to understand what it does. And if you read the RFC, you will understand fully the functionalities of it. Then once the boarding process is over, which should be by end of January, we are going to proceed with the launches, testnet, mainnet for Starfleet, and then later on the bridge. So we're not waiting for Starfleet and the bridge for a full year. We're just having these windows of time where we expect specific things to happen, the milestones to be reached.
So now I submitted my application the other day. Now I wish I put more track in it, based on what you said. So I'll have to resubmit it.
No more.
Yeah, I'll just white it out and change the number. So this next question speaks to this, so I'm keeping on this. So someone asked, requiring 5 to 10% of the token supply to be locked seems like an excessive amount to be locked. Is this excessive amount due to expected demand? And on top of that, have you got a lot of good feedback about how much people want to lock up? Are the numbers looking good? So why so many locked up? Do we expect big adoption and that's why we need it? And also, have you gotten good feedback from the community of what they would be willing to put in?
Because we need to leave some room, since the team is also willing to commit a lot. So
yeah. Good. That shows you guys believe in it. Yeah. So that's a good thing.
No, I mean, we see that the already for the, let's call it OriginTrail 1.0, so the current capabilities of OriginTrail knowledge graph, we see that the network itself is very stable. There are a lot of there's a commitment behind from community. And I believe right now we're somewhere close to 2% or even 3%. So it's already a very, very nice percentage. And then we saw that with the OriginTrail knowledge economy phase, the utility itself and also the tokenomics are going to be strengthened to an extent that we need to multiply the percentage of the currently staked tokens in order to have a formidably secure network in the future. So we have a minimum of 20 mil and max of 50. And then once in the future iterations, of course, that's going to be kind of loosened up and it can even go higher. But right now, this is the frame.
Great. So this next question, sorry, I'm trying to speed things along because I know it's getting late for you guys there. Which OTT member NFT do you think will become the most valuable in the long run? I'm going to go with Anna's on this one, but what do you guys think?
I think you're asking Anna now. Anna, do you mind replying this question? Let's see if she listens. Wrong. Let's see.
I'm listening. Hi, everyone. I'm listening to every word you say.
I might have
ask,
my vote.
Okay, I might ask for a pay increase then after this office hours.
Well, you can sell it on the knowledge economy.
Well, you also have an NFT, so I think you can also
Boom.
you can vote for yourself, though, right?
Yeah. All right. Is OriginTrail getting a dedicated Polkadot parachain? Will the knowledge tokens NFTs be available natively or via a bridge to other projects on the Polkadot ecosystem? And something I've I've kind of put this out at one point was when you look at the Polkadot ecosystem and you look at the ODN, there's some very eerie similarities between the relay chain and the ODN, and then there's a lot of similarities between the subgraphs and the parachains. And I noticed on a graphic that you put out recently of the event, it shows like this straight line of like OriginTrail parachain, and then it shows track or whatever. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I kind of envision the ODN being kind of more on the relay chain level for Polkadot. And then I imagine the subgraphs would be more operating similar to parachains do on Polkadot. And then you have that kind of overlap between the two ecosystems. But do you see you guys getting a parachain? And am I too crazy in thinking that how I envision the ODN sitting alongside Polkadot?
All right. So the Polkadot integration is something that is being in specification, and we are working with the team from Parity to establish exactly how that should look like. But the idea is pretty much what you said. So the idea is that the ecosystems are connected. In what specific way does it mean a parachain or a parathread? Or it's part of the implementation. So we will decide upon what's the best sort of mix of technical capabilities that provides and the needs. But definitely the idea is to have the ability to have tokens accessible on the Polkadot network that basically through the relay chain, that means connectedness with all the other chains that are building on Polkadot. And also potentially another version of the bridge to Ethereum, because Polkadot should have, at least that's intended to have a native parachain basically just built for as a bridge to Ethereum. So the idea definitely there being that these ecosystems are connected. What's the specifics of the implementation? It's not so relevant at this point, but it's something that we're working on, and that's also going to be part of the RFC process. So it's going to be published when TRL 2, which is the readiness level of basically defining the technological needs and requirements. That's going to be something that everybody's going to be able to contribute to. So having that said, when you look at that, when you compare these two graphs that you mentioned, they're slightly different because they have different purposes, but essentially they do. The OriginTrail decentralized knowledge graph has root in a couple of blockchains, which provides integrity and disincentivization. And then when you see the graph around it, the graph is really all about the data. While on the Polkadot side, you're looking at a network of connected consensus protocols. And what's one of the key things there is this cross-message exchange, cross-blockchain exchange message protocol, XCMP, which basically acts as kind of a tool for building bridges between chains. So Polkadot is solving the scalability problem for blockchains in terms of transaction throughput and smart contracts, while ODN is solving the scalability problem from the aspect of data and knowledge, and also the services associated to it. So services such as, potentially putting some data in the smart contract, like oracles, like the trusted oracle framework we showcased at the event, or vice versa, getting data out of the chain and into the graph and then offering it somewhere else. So there are very many similarities, but the key difference is what it handles, really. The two systems do, in a way, fundamentally two different things.
Yeah, think of a cloud computing system, right? You have your processor and your memory, but then you also have a storage involved in that. And then so one ecosystem may be able to serve one of those, but the other ecosystem can serve the other. And then together you make this great global computer network, pretty much.
Yeah, that's a very good comparison.
All right, don't worry, speeding up. We only got like 2 or 3 more questions. I'll try to rip through them. But could you explain why, in your eyes, this is a paradigm shift from the status quo. And we've kind of talked about all that, but just give me like a quick, why do you think this is a paradigm shift?
So if you look at the competition, the solution landscape, OriginTrail is vastly superior in terms of permissionlessness and the ability to create knowledge. And if you combine those two, you're offering a whole new set of applications, both to enterprise and individuals, to improve sustainability of supply chains. So that's number one. And as individuals using the OriginTrail economy, they're able to protect their data and to monetize it, and then avoid monopolies, which are the only ones benefiting from the data economy. So it's a leapfrog not only for what we are doing, but for the society at large.
Exactly. I mean, we answered that in every other question, but I just had to put that out there, and like the explain like I'm five theme I'm going for. Where was the guy from SBB seems to talk about RailCloud, also sees images as in RailCloud presentations. Can you confirm the ODN is used in the RailCloud? I noticed that image he put up there in the thing. It was like the cartoon graphics of like, like, oh, a part moves from here and it goes to here. But so can we confirm, is the ODN going to be used for this Swiss Railway, of this RailCloud, or are we waiting for like the EPCS repository stuff to kind of get finalized?
Oh, it's here. I mean, the works on this have been ongoing since I think we first met them at the summit in Brussels already previous year, and this is when the whole story was started with relation to the first EPCIS, and this was when the network operating system was at a very, very early stage, but they were one of the first ones to commit to start using it. And then the story became a bit more ambitious because they saw that other suppliers might be interested in using the same repository. And this, perhaps, I believe this is what I assume the one who asked the question meant by Rail Cloud. So essentially, EPCIS, OriginTrail EPCIS repository is the main underpinning element of the Rail Cloud for both SBB and their suppliers.
Awesome. And now we know Siemens kind of gets thrown into the mix there a little bit too, from what you were saying earlier.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't stop with the one supplier. It's all suppliers, and I don't know how many suppliers the Swiss Railways could possibly have, but I imagine it's a lot. So anyone contributing anything to the critical infrastructure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, all I know is I'm putting more tokens into the contract now after this discussion today. So, so the last one, guys, is Trace Labs planning to get more money from investors? If so, is there a way we can participate? So have you started getting like companies jumping on, being like, hey, have you thought about taking on some capital from us to get us involved? And I know that will kind of take away from the vision in some ways too, but it may be a good thing to grow. Yeah. So anything you can talk about with that?
There is, I think we can, just a little tiny breadcrumb, I guess. OriginTrail is, it's not a company, it's an ecosystem. Yet Trace Labs is the core, both adoption agent and the core developer of OriginTrail. And there are some very positive movements in terms of the investors that are going to be potentially coming into the Trace Labs in the future. And there is one kind of particular, I would say, already kind of a commitment, but it's not something kind of huge yet. But in terms of the name, it's a pretty big deal. We got a support that might extend to something more formidable towards somewhere by the end of 2021, when we also plan to have this initial fundraise series A, and this is going to be the first time Trace Labs is opening up for other investors into the cap table. And then our kind of future desire is to go IPO, because we believe that we can offer the best value if we have multitude of different investors. It's quite similar to what OriginTrail is. You have plenty of contributors, and by having this network, you can actually both service those who are becoming stakeholders better, and you have a better marketing medium because plenty of people believe in your idea. But right now, it's I think we're on a very good path because we got the name supporting us. We cannot say who that is, but it's essentially someone who supported Twitter amongst the first investors, and Coinbase, and multitude of other very important companies. Square, yeah. So hopefully we can drag this name out in the beginning of next year, and also amp up the credos of Trace Labs, because that's very important for both enterprise and other proprietary things utilizing OriginTrail. So exciting developments there, and 2021 is definitely going to be a big one.
Yeah, don't worry. One day you're going to say Guinness Industries is a big investor, and everybody's going to get really excited when they hear that. So,
yeah,
guys, thanks a lot. Honestly, we needed this kind of like explain like on 5 sessions, so I'm glad we did this. And everything I heard today is amazing, and it just reassures everything that we knew in the event and even more. So, anything you want to close with?
Yeah. One thing is, I mean, we're getting stronger by every week, I would say, and if the next year is going to be, equally successful in terms of growth, in terms of how well also you guys, the community, are conveying messages between each other to make everything more easily understood. If all things go with the same pace, I think we're seeing a very, very nice 2021, and we are going to be all very much happily committed to this common cause of making everything more sustainable. What I would really like to point out in this kind of festive month is that we all need to be, I guess, always humanized towards each other. I think that's the most important component. We should always show this human character. Of course, sometimes things are difficult. Sometimes things are difficult to understand, but the main thing is that we are all sticking together, and we all have this, very much good intentions. And whenever someone is trying to point out something, bad, we should call him out, because obviously in this space, a lot of people are not showing their faces, which is good. I mean, not everything should be without anonymity. I think anonymity is very much important. But especially in this space, when we're trying to build something good, although we are sometimes anonymous, we should be very much kind to each other. And this kindness, I think we should have this in mind for the upcoming Christmas, and then in the next year. I think this kindness should also help us become better, not only as human beings, but also as kind of the builders of the OriginTrail ecosystem. And thank you, Guinness Dash, above all, for hosting this AMA, last AMA of this year. It's been an incredible ride, and it feels like ever since we initiated the AMA, things have been moving in a very, very positive direction. So I would like to extend our gratitude to you, because you are a very, very important component to this ecosystem.
Well, hey, thanks for having me, and I love doing this, and I hope we can keep doing this through 2021. And my only worry, there's going to be too many questions after a point. This thing could get 8 hours long because you guys keep doing more and more and getting more done. So it's getting harder to isolate the questions down into a small enough format. So, all right, thanks everybody. Appreciate it. Best one. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. Go out, enjoy yourself. Know everything's happening. A lot of stuff going on, and I'll see you guys soon.
Merry Christmas, and stay safe.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Cheers.
All 3 of them.
Yeah.
I'll see you guys.
See ya.